quickly, before we get started on this, let's just review a little bit, okay? So we looked at ordering integers. Do you remember that? So we said integers, they have order, okay? Now, that might seem a bit obvious to you. You're like, of course numbers have order. Well, if you hang around for a little while in maths, you will learn about different kinds of numbers that you can't just put in a row and say, well, this one's smaller, and this one's in the middle, and this one's bigger. It's a little more complicated than that, okay? So integers have order, and you did a bit of practice doing that, okay? I also looked at the number line. We looked at that very briefly, which is a great way to represent numbers, and also to have their comparison with each other. Yes? If I put something on the board, in general, it's a good idea to write it. I'll probably tell you if I don't want you to write it. But that's why I think it's helpful. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the most recent thing you looked at was adding integers. Is that right? Yeah? Adding.
Yes.
I realized it was a little while ago. And, you know, drum beats and swimming carnivals notwithstanding, you've had plenty of other things to keep you busy. But that's sort of where we went. So I want to go after this one again, adding integers, right? What does that sound?
I do believe
The fan.
it's about
The fan's dying.
I think there's like a bird in there.
So, let's do some examples. Okay, we'll start with simple ones. Ones that you already know from counting numbers. 2 plus 3. That's a nice easy one. It's altogether?
7.
Oh dear.
Ah.
Wow.
It was James.
You're definitely sitting in that seat forever. Okay, I had the right answer somewhere. It's fine.
Say that with the
Okay.
Oh.
Alright, let's do another one. Another example. How about, let's throw a negative in there, shall we? Now, by the way, before we progress past this, don't forget that we distinguished a little bit between a minus sign that's here and a minus sign that's here. Okay? Do you remember this? Do you remember this? So, just quickly, what is the answer to both of them?
-3.
It's 3.
I did it.
He's a genius.
Okay? The answer to both is the same, but we say them in quite different ways. Do you remember how we say them? Okay? You may actually like to write this down on the side. The way I would write this, or rather the way I would say it, is 4. Put some quote marks there. 4, and the operation between them is a plus. 4 plus. Right? But then what you're adding, the thing you're adding to it, is a negative number, right? It's 4 plus negative 1. So what we're trying to discourage is saying it as 4 plus minus 1. What's the difference? It seems very, very little, but the idea is that negative 1, right, that's the number. That negative sign stays with the 1, okay? They're kind of like buddies and they don't let go of each other, okay? So that's 4 plus negative 1. This, on the other hand, right, is not a negative number, it's an operation, and the operation is minus. So we would read that as 4 minus 1, okay? Now in practice, what does this actually mean? Well, because we get the same answer, it's not that big a deal. Negatives and minus are both kind of like having a direction. We call this integers directed number, right? Having a direction, and the negative or the minus means turn around. That's all it means. Okay? So for instance, this 4, okay, we went 4. So we're going to do it like this. Okay, let's here's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 3. Okay, oops, I needed 0. So here's my number line, okay? And you always start off at 0. I don't know if you remember when we had a discussion about what integers were and what they weren't. We were tossing up about 0. I said it's really important. One of the reasons why is because it's always where you start. Is it over my head? Close enough? Is that all right? Okay, so
It's like a halo.
that's really unsettling. The first thing we're going to do is, let's do 4 minus 1. That's nice and easy. Okay. So 4 minus 1, you start from 0, you go 1, 2, 3, 4. Wow, revolutionary, I know, right? Okay. Now, we're doing 4 minus 1, so I'm turning around, and then you go 1. No big deal, right? Okay, so what's going in here? You're still going that way. There's a plus, right? But how far do you go that way? Well, after you've gone 4, I still end up over here, right? What about the -1? What does that mean? It means turn around. So, in essence, that's why you get the same numbers. Okay, no problem, all right? One last example. Sorry, that's example 3. Example, well, we already skipped something. But anyway. Let's do -5, -7. Okay, -5, -7. What's it mean? Yeah. -12, that's right. Now, where did -12 come from, right? You start from 0. The first minus sign tells you, turn around. So off you go, and I don't have space here, but I'd go 5 units, right? And the -7 means keep going that way, right? So that's why I'm going to get, so far, I'd go out of the room, I suppose, and that's why you got such a big negative number, all right? Now, I skipped a little bit ahead of myself when I gave you this one, because we're looking at subtracting integers now, right? So where it gets really interesting, this is no longer revision, but let's do subtraction. Okay. When we're combining these things together, so let's do it again. 2 minus 8. Okay. So it's just like, actually there's a really bad start. I can do better. I'll save it until the next call. 2 minus 8 means I'm going this way, those 2 units, 1, 2, and then I'm turning around and off I go. So how far will I end up once I've gotten all the way over this side?
-6.
Excellent. Now, hold on a second. Yes, but not quite. This answer on the end should be an integer, shouldn't it? Okay? No operations. That's kind of what the point was, to get rid of operations. So it's not really -6.
-6.
It's -6. Not that much of a difference, but it's subtle. How many of you bought a calculator already? Hands up. Have you got it with you? Great. Get it out. Get it out for a second. You did too. You get it out, and I'll point out to you. It's the same as this, right? Same one?
Yep.
Yeah. Good. Okay. I'll point out to you. It's a really, really small thing there, which some of you might not really notice unless I point it out. Which is that where's the minus sign? Where is the minus sign? It's down near the bottom right-hand corner, just above equals, isn't it? Bottom right? Good. I always get left and right mixed up when I'm facing people. Okay. So there's minus, and you can see it's all lumped together with the other operations. Right? But there is actually not just minus, but there's a negative button on the calculator. Can anyone see it? Who can find it? I don't know where it is?
Yep.
Yeah, where is it? Can you describe where it is to me?
It's next to like the little corner thing.
Okay, so it's on the left-hand side?
It's got like, it's got 2 brackets.
Yeah, good. Okay, so it looks like this. In case you haven't found it yet. Okay, now you can actually use that button, and you can see it's not quite like the minus, it's a bit smaller, so you can actually tell the difference when you type it up. Okay, so that's the negative button. Alright? So that's kind of handy. It's there for a reason, because these two things are different ideas. Okay? Negative is the direction of the integer, but minus is an operation. I suppose the difference is kind of like, what kind of a word is negative? You guys know heaps of wordy words like nouns, verbs, adjectives. What other kinds of words do you know? Any other words? Yep. Adverbs. Okay. Are there any other big? Yeah. Pronouns. Excellent. Any others? Yep. Ooh, wow. That's a big one. Is it prepositions? Yeah, that's it. There's others. There's conjunctions. That's a big one. One more. Yeah. Proverbs. Oh, that's interesting, because that is a word, and it certainly does seem like it should be in the list, but it kind of means something different. We do tend to pronounce it proverb, but it's a little different. I'm going to leave that one off on the side for a little while. If we're good by the end of the lesson, I'll tell you what it means. Now, have a look. I reckon this is a good enough list. Minus. Where does minus fit in our list? Think about it for a second. Okay, hands up. Who thinks it's a noun? Anyone? Any takers? Okay, that's all right. Who reckons it's a verb? Okay, 1, 2, yeah, 3, 4, 3.5? 4, it's a 4. Okay, all right. 4, okay. Who thinks it's an adjective? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Who wants a later option? Who wants one of the later options? Anyone?
I want a noun.
And then, you mean a noun up here? Okay, 1. All right. I'll save you some time, and I will tell you that it's not any of these. Well, actually, that one. Either. Okay. Now that's 10 of you who put your hand up so far, and there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 17, 22 of us in the room, which means that 12 of you are confused. And that's totally okay. It's totally okay. Which one is it? Can we work it out? We're talking about minus, aren't we? Okay. 4 minus 1. 4 minus 1. Something is happening, isn't it? There's an action that's taking place. An action is taking place. Which kind of word gives you an action? Can we get some examples? Yeah.
Verb.
It's actually a verb, right? So verbs are like jump, or fly, or eat. These are all things that are, they're not that kind of fine. Too ambiguous. I suppose you can say jump, like in skateboarding. Anyway. So something is happening. Well, when you minus something, you subtract something, there's an action that takes place. It's actually a verb. What about negative? What about negative? Which one's that? Can we work this one out?
That's a noun.
Ooh, negative. Now, it's a bit tricky because, hands down for a second, hands down. English is a bit of a pain sometimes because sometimes one word can mean two different things. Like I said, fly, or fly can be a verb, but it can be a noun as well, right? When we talk about negative, we don't mean like film negatives, you know, when things are backwards in colors and all that kind of thing. We mean negative numbers. Negative 1, right? So the 1 is the thing, it's the object. The negative tells you something about the number, which means it's an adjective, right? So you've got minus being a verb, and negative being an adjective. It's a descriptive word, okay? So that's why we have different buttons on